Hello, this is Lucas, and in this video I'm going to be going over switch statements in JavaScript. So a switch statement is a different alternative to the if-else statements that we went over a few videos ago. So it works in a similar way. There's just a few differences. So let's create ourselves a variable. So we'll just do let x is equal to, let's do the number 10, or let's just do 1. Okay. Now we can create our switch statement. So we'll just do switch, and we need to pass in the value that we want to check. Okay, so we want to check the value x. Right, now in curly brackets right in here. What we'll do now is we will create cases. So we'll do case 1. Okay, and then a colon, and now in here we will put in code that we want to execute if x is equal to 1. So if x is equal to 1, then we'll just do a console.log, and we will say the number is 1, and a semicolon at the end. And this is supposed to be a console.log. Okay? So now you can see, if we go back to our page, we can refresh this, and you can see the number is 1 because x is equal to 1. Okay? Now, if we want to add another case, so we want to check if the number is 1 or if the number is 2, well, then we can just do the exact same thing. I'm just going to copy and paste it. So we can just do this, and we can change this to case 2. And the number is 2. So now what we're going to do is we're going to change this number to 2, and we're going to see what happens. So if I refresh this page now, you can see we get the number is 2. Because firstly we check if x is equal to 1. Okay. If it's not equal to 1, well then we will skip this block of code and we will move on to the next case. And if x is equal to 2, well then we will execute this piece of code right here. Now, something that is very important. So if I change this number back to 1, let's see what happens. So you can see we are going to check if x is equal to 1. In this case it is. So then we are going to print out this this console.log. Okay, and technically that should be it. We should be done there. However, if you look, if I refresh this, you can see we get 2 logs. We get the number is 1 and the number is 2. So both of these got printed out. Now why is that? That is because if x is equal to 1, alright, so if this is true, we will execute this piece of code here, and but then we will move on and we will execute the next piece of code without checking this. Okay, so the way to fix that is we need to have break statements after each block of code that we insert into here. So we'll just do break, should you do semicolon, and we'll do the same thing here, break. Now if you see, we go back here, refresh this, you can see we only get console.log the number is 1. We don't get the second one, because if x is equal to 1, we will execute this piece of code here. Whenever we finish executing the piece of code, we will break out of this switch statement here. So by breaking out of the switch statement, the rest of the code does not get executed. Okay, so it's very important to add a break statement after each block of code in our switch statement. Now, let's say that none of our values equal to, or let's say our variable x does not equal to any of these values. So it doesn't equal to 1 or 2. So let's say we just do a 3, for example. But then we can have a default, and the default is basically like else in the if-else statement. Okay, so a switch statement works like this. This is the if statement, and then the rest of these are else if. And then we can add a very last one, which is else. And else for us will be default. Okay, and just like the else statement, we don't actually have to pass in a value to check, right? Because an else statement is if the previous cases are false. So if x does not equal to 1 or 2, whatever the value is, it doesn't matter. We will execute the code that we pass in the default. So we can just do something like console.log, and we can just log I don't know the number. Okay, so the value is 3. So now you can see, if we go back to our page, refresh this, you can see we get the log I don't know the number. Because x does not equal to 1, it does not equal to 2. So because it doesn't equal to any of these, by default, we are going to execute this piece of code. So it works in the exact same way that an else statement works with the if-else statement. Okay? Now we can actually add these in to execute the same piece of code. So let's say that if our value is 1, we want it to execute a piece of code. But let's say if our value is 2, we want it to execute the exact same piece of code. Okay, so we can do that very easily. So the way we can do this is, let's change this number to 3, just for now. So what we can do is, we can add another case like this. So we can do case 2. And the way this will work is, if x is equal to 1, or if it's equal to 2, we will execute this piece of code here. So if I change this value to, let's say 1 for now, go back, refresh this, you can see we get the number is 1. But now if I change this value to 2, go back, refresh, and you can see we get the number is 1. Because if x is equal to 1, or if it's equal to 2, we will execute this piece of code right here. Now our switch statements can also allow arbitrary expressions. So I'm just going to do a brand new example. Let's remove all of this here. And let's create ourselves 2 variables. Let's do let a is equal to, let's do a string of 1. Then let's create a new one. Let's do let b is equal to 0. Okay. Then we can create our switch statement. Except as the value that we pass in, I'm going to do plus 1. And then we're just going to write our case just like normal, except in the case, what we're going to do is we're going to do b plus 1. Okay? And then we can do something like this. Sorry, this is a. That's my fault. So we can do a. And then we can just write something. We can just do console.log, and I'm just going to do something like x. Okay? And then I'm just going to have a default just to test this out. So we can do a default, and we can just do another console.log. Now in here, I'll just do y. Okay? Now if we go back, refresh this, you can see we get x and y. That is because I forgot to break. Easy mistake. Refresh this, you can see now we get x because b, which is 0, right, plus 1, okay, is equal to 1. And 1 is equal to a. Okay, so we are checking for a, but if these values equal to whatever value a is, we are still going to execute this piece of code right here. So we can use arbitrary expressions as well in our switch statements. So that's about it for this video. I hope this video was helpful. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you in the next one. Peace out.